Welcome back everybody to the WAM, and we've got more Wrestling Association of the Mid-South coming right at you. We've really been carrying some momentum over the last few months, and we're sitting in a good spot financially, we're sitting in a good spot with the morale, and we're ready to expand on and bring forth the newest big addition to the world of wrestling. We will be holding the inaugural WAM Prix. This is going to be a point-based tournament for the ladies, female exclusive, to crown our first WAM Women's Champion. Now the way that this is going to work is, over the course of the last couple months of 1932, all the ladies are going to be taking part in a variation of one-on-one matches, triple threats, maybe some four-way matches, but all singles competition will be weighed and scored, graded, put into consideration for this tournament. And the way that this is going to work is, each lady will be earning points based on their in-ring performances. It will be an exact correlation of what their individual in-ring rating was. That is however many points that they earn for that match. To qualify for the Women's Championship match, you need 200 points and 5 victories. Whether that's one-on-one, triple threat, the only thing that's not going to count is tag team action. If we do any tag team matches, it's strictly just to keep getting them work. Pre-show matches will not count, so the ladies are going to get some major exposure on the main card. So let me know what you guys think of this format. Obviously, we're going to see how it develops over the course of this exercise and this WAM Prix. Once we get 2 competitors with 200 points and 5 victories, they will then compete in a one-on-one match to determine the first ever WAM Women's Champion. So it's going to be big. Make sure you tune in. And we're also going to peruse the database a little bit before we get into our next edition of the Fortnite Fisticuffs. One major development is that SPW is no longer the #1 company in the entire world right now. Viva La Lucha has taken that spot. They've got some serious popularity in Mexico, 55 in their home state, 40 in Noroccidente, and then 24 in Centro and Occidente. They're only 4 points away in their home region from moving up to the medium size. They're at 55. They already got the second requirement. They're even making some good ground in America. 27 in the Mid-South and Southwest, 12 in the Southeast, 13 in the Midwest. So Viva La Lucha, as of right now, is the #1 wrestling company in the world. SPW at number 2. They're at 55 in the Southeast, and they have not grown in the Southeast since April of 1932. So they're going on almost 7 or 8 months at this point, and they've only got 21 popularity in the Mid-Atlantic and Mid-South. They're going to need 35 in those regions before they can get up to medium size. And then you've got us, the WAM. We're at 47 popularity in the Mid-South, so we've got a ways to go as we're trailing in our home region. However, our secondary regions, the Midwest is at 26. That actually doesn't help us get up to medium, but we are at 21 in the Southeast and 22 in the Southwest. So we are neck and neck in our secondary regions with SPW, and if SPW remains stagnant, you can see we have certainly not been stagnant. We've actually grown from 40 to 47 in that same time frame that SPW has stayed at 55. So we're gaining some ground on the big companies and a major shakeup in the power structure of the world of wrestling. Down at the bottom, we still got the Goof Wrestling Association, Joshi Japan Circuit, United Kingdom of Ketch, Friedrich Herzog's Pride of Germany, which, funny enough, it's got 41 popularity in its home region, but it is really isolated over there in Europe, and it's not able to get a lot of spillover. You see, even in the British Isles, just 1 across the regions there, and then 0 basically everywhere else. And another thing I noticed that I thought was interesting, Fumihiko Onoda, we hyped him up when he got hired by FNP. I was really happy for him, but it seems that FNP has not used him at all. Ever since he got hired in FNP, he has not even had a single match. His last match that wasn't on the independent circuit was actually here in the WAM. So they're kind of unfortunate for Onoda, but I mean, at least he's on a roster. If we ever need him, he's there and we can get him, but I was so excited that he got a job, and he hasn't gotten any work since he got hired. And in the most recent episode that was uploaded onto YouTube, our main man, Lord Judgment 1818, huge friend to the channel, major supporter, appreciate you, brother. He wanted to see a closer look into the title history. I'm sorry it's taken this long. There's some serious gap in between upload and recording right now. But we're going to take a look at our full championship history of each title Starting with the WHAM Heavyweight Championship, obviously Neil Allman, 2-time champion. Current prestige for the belt is at 21 right now. Neil Allman has had this championship for 234 days. If he lost it right now, it would be the second shortest title reign in WHAM history. As you can see, the reigns have been pretty substantial so far. Bronson Fraley with the longest one at 686 days, nearly 2 years as champion. Friedrich Herzog spent over a year as champion. However, Rohan Marlowe, even though his reign wasn't as long as the other two, he did have 12 championship defenses. As we mentioned fairly recently, he was the most vigilant heavyweight champion when it came to defending that title. So I'm pretty happy with the way that the lineage has been established so far. Every name on here is a huge name. Sebastian Morales, Friedrich Herzog, Rohan Marlowe, Bronson Fraley, Neil Allman. And Neil Allman is the only one on that list to be a 2-time heavyweight champion. Our junior heavyweight championship, this has really been a workhorse title. Another list of really strong names, despite there being a little bit more parity, a little bit more back and forth with the championship. Our first ever champion was Wayne Blankenship. Good old Wayne Blankenship held that belt for 371 days before losing it to Albie Dewberry. If you remember Levi Andrews, he had a stint as champion before Albie Dewberry took it back. Joe Cartwright has held that thing twice. Emilio Suarez, big name in wrestling. Elijah Mays, huge name in wrestling. Hermenegildo Ramirez, obviously our current 2-time champion. And then there's RT Lincoln. We really wanted to get this man stint as champion. I don't know if he's ever going to get it again, just given the level of competition at the top of the junior heavyweight division. Hermenegildo Ramirez is getting 70s when it comes to his in-ring performance. So I think the junior heavyweight championship is going to remain that belt for who is the best worker in that division. You know, obviously the heavyweight championship has a bunch of storylines behind it. Got that entertainment, sports entertainment value to it, I guess, because we are still very much American wrestling. But I want the junior heavyweight championship to stay as that workhorse. You know, we got a current prestige of 23, and we got a really strong guy holding that belt as the champion right now, and Hermenegildo Ramirez. Probably, I'm just gonna say, he's probably our best in-ring competitor. Very close second, Sebastian Morales. But he's a heavyweight. And then we've got our Oklahoma Openweight Championship, new championship, just released a little over 3 months ago. Chuck Wellington, the first and only champion so far. Current prestige 2, he's had some very creative championship defenses, to say the least. Just coming off a fresh championship defense. Granted, that one was draw thanks to a time limit, but Chuck did what he said he would do. He said he was going to become champion in some fashion, and he did that. He's currently the only champion in this title's lineage. Then we've got our tag team championships. Bronson Fraley and Neil Allman, current champions, big names carrying the tag team titles, and I think that's going to help raise its prestige a little bit faster. Currently at 6, we had Friedrich Herzog and Moses Lilia toting the titles. Newcomers Matu Scarborough and Rocco Lockwood held the belt for a while. We haven't seen the craziest reigns. We did have the Wellington brothers as our first champions, Angus and Chuck. They held the belts for 655 days, thanks to shenanigans aplenty, before they eventually lost the title to the Dark Carnival, Blue Mage and Craig Bean. But the Wellington boys were then salty and had the titles vacated for over a year before they tried to bring them back, but that blew up in their face and they did not win the tag titles. But fun fact, Chuck Wellington is the first champion ever for both the tag team championships and the Oklahoma Openweight champion. So regardless of if he's actually deserving or a really good competitor, Chuck Wellington is going to be historic when it comes to the record books here in the WHAM. Those are our championship belts, and then of course we've got the yearly matches, which are basically like trophies. The Glory Gauntlet. Joe Cartwright won the first, Elijah Mays the second, and RT Lincoln the third. And much like in both of our yearly events, the winner ends up being the champion of their rightful division. So the Glory Gauntlet is a junior heavyweight match, and the Derby is a heavyweight exclusive tournament, which crowned our very first heavyweight champion ever. Bronson Fraley actually won the first 2, looking like the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. That was all part of his very long and historic heavyweight championship reign. Neil Allman was the third man to win the Derby, and Neil Allman and Bronson Fraley are the only two to ever won the Derby twice. Sebastian Morales won it, Friedrich Herzog, Rohan Marlow. Obviously these names line up directly with the heavyweight championship lineage because whoever walks out of the Derby as the winner is walking out as the heavyweight champion. That's just how it works. So that's just a little bit of a deeper look into some of the database right now. I'm going to try to do it a little bit more often, and I hope you enjoyed it. But we've got a Fortnite Fisticuffs event to get into. And here we are. We've got a big night in store. We packed the main card as full as we can, a full 75 minutes. And we've got some pre-show matches as well. Our first one being a nice tag team match between some good competitors, just didn't have a significant spot on the main card for him. But we've got Matu Scarborough and Woodrow Gunter teaming up to defeat the team of Barakui, Diego Bergen, and Kitahachi Kakui. Matu Scarborough was really off of his game, but he still got an in-ring performance of 54. This man is going to be big. Woodrow Gunter got a 49. Kitahachi Kakui got a 44, as well as Diego Bergen. Of course, they've got some excellent chemistry together, and we get a match rating of 50 for this pre-show match. Another pre-show match, Moses Lilia back in action, going one-on-one with Jeremy Funderburk, and of course, the big man, Moses Lilia, picking up the victory over Funderburk. However, Funderburk is now on a bit of a streak of in-ring performances that are at least hitting 30, so you love to see that. But we've got Neil Allman and Bronson Fraley to open the show. Allman is here to address the whispered criticism of not coming through on his end to give Friedrich Herzog a heavyweight title match in exchange for the tag team title match that Neil Allman and Bronson Fraley received. Neil Allman makes it clear Friedrich Herzog is a fraud and doesn't deserve another title match. Neil Allman reveals to the crowd that Herzog's contract ends in 2 days, making tonight his final appearance with the Wham. The champion states that Herzog would have left the company with the title, embarrassing the entire company. Not that Allman would have lost anyway, given his recent successful defense against Herzog. Allman does offer a consolation. He has arranged a match between Friedrich Herzog and Bronson Fraley tonight. This would receive some slight pushback from Fraley, but Allman would ease the tension before the two made their leave. Great segment to get things going. Neil Allman is a master with the microphone. Letting him improvise, he gets a segment rating of 62. Bronson Fraley, even though he's got a gimmick that's getting stale, not too bad of a job here, although we do have a gimmick idea ready to change up Bronson Fraley's gimmick for him. We got that right before the show, actually. But moving into our first match, the first match of the Wham Pre. Some of these matches aren't going to wow everybody, but this is how we are going to establish the women's division. We've got Ivy Baldridge and Mariana Calvo going one-on-one, and Ivy Baldridge, the relative veteran in this match, picking up the victory with an in-ring performance of 28, both ladies with a 28, and Ivy Baldridge kicking off the Wham Pre with her victory, getting 28 points in the process. As you're going to see how it works. I've got a graphic to kind of show you after a couple shows and everything, and we'll see how the ladies are stacking up. But segment rating at 29 here. Now moving on to our next match, we've got the Oklahoma Openweight Championship on the line, baby. Chuck Wellington, the fearless champion, laying the challenge down to none other than Kamari Flanders. Yep, Kamari Flanders, who has not won a match since coming into the Wham, is receiving a championship match against Chuck Wellington for the Oklahoma Openweight Championship. Chuck Wellington would successfully defend his title with an in-ring performance of 34. Kamari Flanders just getting a 27. These two get a match rating of 33, not the strongest showing here, but it is a successful championship defense nonetheless. And we don't have a segment for it, but Chuck Wellington would basically just cut a quick promo saying that Woodrow Gunter has lost his shot at the championship. He's now moved down to the bottom of the pecking order, and I guess he's now above Kamari Flanders because Kamari Flanders just lost. But Chuck Wellington just protecting himself from Woodrow Gunter as much as he can. Now our next match, we've got Black Bull back in action, going up against Brian Hatcher, who has turned out to be an actual very solid in-ring competitor for us, and we are going to continue to utilize him despite him not getting utilized much at all. And we've got Black Bull picking up the victory in just over 6.5 minutes thanks to the Gore. That is his official finishing move. More input from Immense Degree. Thank you, brother. And if you want to be like Immense Degree, just leave a comment down below. Let me know if you got some finisher ideas for some folks. We are going to do an overhaul. I changed the finishers up a little bit, but I didn't give them any special flavor or anything, so you guys can help us out with that. But anyway, we get a match rating of 45, Black Bull with a good performance here, and we're ready to move on. The Dark Carnival would then crash the match, I guess the post-match rather, coming straight for Black Bull. Blue Mage and Craig Bean rushed into a physical confrontation with their former ally, and Black Bull didn't hesitate to defend himself. While Bull's defense worked for a short time, the number disadvantage and force of Blue Mage and Craig Bean would overwhelm Black Bull. Before things could get out of hand, Maxwell Ham and the Great Matsuo made their appearance and rushed the ring themselves, sending Blue Mage and Craig Bean off and away to the back. We get a segment rating of 47 here, as the Dark Carnival come out to attack Black Bull. However, they are interrupted by the Great Matsuo and Maxwell Ham, who were just dealing with the Dark Carnival themselves, and now Black Bull has found himself once again in between some conflict between different parties. This man is just a magnet for drama. In our next angle, we've got Sebastian Morales, interviewed by Riker Zucker, who asks Sebastian if he expects a heavyweight title match following his big victory at the last event. Sebastian Morales answered with a predictable but certain claim that he undoubtedly deserves to be the one to shut the mouth of Neil Allman. However, Rahan Marlowe would interrupt the interview, showing up from the curtain and joining the two, who are just over by the announce desk, which is not far from the curtain. Marlowe brings up his dominant reign as champion, as well as his own recent victory over Sebastian Morales. Turner Spittler would then butt his head into the exchange, bringing the three together once more. Spittler reiterated that he is the only one ruthless enough to get the job done, citing his victories over both Rahan Marlowe and Sebastian Morales, and demanding a title shot of his own. We will see a payoff to these three knuckleheads and their shenanigans, so make sure you tune in, but continuing to remind everybody that all three of these guys have picked up victories over one another in some fashion in the past, all having their own rightful claim as to why they should be the number one contender. But we get a segment rating of 54 here, and we're going to move on. Our next contest is not the best match. The continuation of the Women's Wham Prix. As a triple threat match, Kuni Hashiguchi, Burbidia Abeta, and Talia Rayleigh compete together in their first action and their first opportunity to gain some points and gain some victories. However, Burbidia Abeta is going to be seriously derailed. She's probably going to miss the entire Women's Wham Prix, which is very unfortunate because she's one of our dark horses in the entire thing. She got an in-ring performance of 39, but most importantly, she got a dislocated shoulder in the process. That's going to keep her out for sure. But Kuni Hashiguchi would be the one to come out on top, hitting the Savate kick on Talia Rayleigh and picking up the victory. Now, Kuni Hashiguchi did herself some serious favors. In-ring performance of 56, that's going to gain her a lot of points. Burbidia Abeta with a 39, and Talia Rayleigh with a 27. She was really off of her game, so hopefully we see some more consistent performances from her in the future. But we get a segment rating of 29 for this match. Not what we were hoping for. That injury certainly threw it off a little bit, I think. So unfortunate stuff there, and you can see that we changed Friedrich Herzog's picture since he's going to be leaving the Wham. I just advancing his age. This picture was labeled as Friedrich Herzog in like the file batch and everything. So, and there are a few pictures that are kind of like for legacy and aging and everything, which I love. I think it's a great addition that Mark Northern made into a few of these characters. And I wanted to see it before he was gone forever, so here it is. And Talia Rayleigh getting some heat on her for being the reason that Burbidia Abeta got hurt. Unfortunate. And in addition, this match was just full of botches. Kuni Hashiguchi was seething that Burbidia Abeta almost injured her. Unfortunate, just not the best turnout for the ladies. However, we do get a great triple threat match from the junior heavyweights right after, as Archie Filer picking up a victory over RT Lincoln and Raul LeBoy in our junior heavyweight main event. Filer cementing himself as what could be the biggest threat to Hermenegildo Ramirez's junior heavyweight championship right now, and we get a segment rating of 58 for this triple threat. Archie Filer with a 61, RT Lincoln with a 57, and Raul LeBoy with a 38. He was really off of his game. Our main event of the night brings Bronson Fraley back into the ring against Friedrich Herzog for what will be Friedrich Herzog's last time, and Friedrich Herzog would in fact put over Bronson Fraley. In just under 6 minutes, Bronson Fraley hits a pedigree. There of course would be some Neil Allman shenanigans, some light interference, distraction, but Bronson Fraley for the most part gets it done for himself, a nice little favor for his popularity, and we get a match rating of 59, strong way to end out the night with our main event. And with that, we say goodbye and thank you to Friedrich Herzog, who spent quite a while with the Wham, but unfortunately, the bastard just doesn't want to re-sign with us. So he has taken his leave for the time, and he puts over Bronson Fraley in the process. Overall, show rating of 58, good stuff. Strong main event, strong junior heavyweight match, some good segments as well, sprinkled in with some decent matches, although we had some underperformers like the women's triple threat, Chuck Wellington's championship match, and of course Ivy Baldridge and Mariana Colville. But overall, some really good things being done. And we praise Kuni Hashiguchi, Chuck Wellington, and Woodrow Gunter after the show. Berbidia Abeta will in fact be unavailable, but only unavailable for 19 days, so she is not going to miss out on the Women's Wham Prix entirely. So that is some good news, but she's definitely missing the next edition of the Fortnite Fisticuffs. Major profits here, $15,000. Major profit here, $15,000, and I believe we already did it off camera, but I changed the ticket sales to very cheap because we were making, and we do increase from 47 to 48 popularity in the Mid-South, consistent growth in the other regions. You love to see it. Some more big news, Matsuo Hayawata, the great Matsuo, and Kuni Hashiguchi have started dating. That will be another plus to our backstage morale. So I am changing the ticket pricing from normal to very cheap. We're making plenty of money. Our finances are not in any kind of danger right now, and we are going to continue to ramp that up, honestly. We've got no major roadblocks or obstacles that are going to come up. We're going to be able to upgrade our production, but just to gain as much popularity as we possibly can, we're changing the prices to very cheap. We're going to try to not overinflate our finances too much, but I'm sure it's going to come into question eventually anyway, and we'll have our own challenges there. Friedrich Herzog has also officially left the Wham, but here's a little interesting bit. He is ready to negotiate a new deal. The little bastard. Why did you do that? He wasn't willing to renegotiate a contract extension, but he's totally good to do a new contract. What the hell, man? I'm gonna let him just sit for a while as punishment for leaving the Wham. I changed up my whole tag team title plan for you, you bastard. And given the fact that Viva La Lucha is making the progress they are in America, it makes me want to ramp up what I'm doing in Mexico a little bit. So we're gonna negotiate some broadcasting deals for Noreste and Noroccidente Radiophony. Hopefully they accept it. I see no reason why they wouldn't, especially with the graveyard slot. They don't like the late night, so we'll just stick with the graveyard slot 100% to us, and they're fine with that. Though I think just the nature of this deal, I don't know if that really makes a difference, but we're good there. And we do the same for Noreste. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So with that being said, we are now broadcasting in 2 regions in Mexico as well. The growth is going to be real. And just taking a look at the state of the database, now that Friedrich Herzog is not available to be our road agent, there's not a lot of options to fill our second road agent spot. Obviously, we've got Jay Letter. Happy with that, for sure. However, just about everyone else who is nearly suitable is either in SPW or they're actually already with us, like Rahan Marlowe. The only unemployed person who would be suitable for this position is Walter Danzig, actually a big part of POG over with Friedrich Herzog for a very long time until I guess he's unemployed now. But he's got 50 psychology, 51 experience. That is not as good as Rahan Marlowe's 66 psychology and 51 experience. So it wouldn't make sense to bring him on papers travel just for him to do something worse than somebody that we already have, you know? So we're probably just going to have to roll with like Kuni Hashiguchi, Woodrow Gunter, Rahan Marlowe, getting reps and a rotation of that secondary road agent spot until something more legitimate pops up. We could re-sign Emilio Suarez, but Diego Bergen thinks it's a terrible idea, and that would hurt his morale. I'm not really in the point where I feel like I need to just leech off of all the big characters in the database, especially if they've already left the Wham. You know, like, fuck them if they didn't want to stay with us. I might change my position on it later, but right now I'm not going to bring in Emilio Suarez again. And I think we're okay. David Rhodes, obviously the road agent that we created/generated. He's with SPW, so we're not going to touch him. We already took one of their road agents. And before our next show, you know we got to take a look at the Goof Wrestling. They have officially gone through with the product change that we set in style for them, and that was an immediate change. As you can see, show number 6, show rating 16, you know, all reds, nothing great. But show 7, once the product change took effect, an instant jump. So this will be their product. Hopefully they don't feel the need to change it, because I think this is probably going to be their best bet for the nature of the company that they are, kind of that independent entity. But we've got Albie Dewberry staying on top of the men's division over there, retaining his Intercontinental Championship and getting an in-ring performance of 41 while he did it. Gabriela Suarez looking good over there. She only got an in-ring performance of 30 in this match, but she is the queen of the goofs over there. We even see Charlie Thompson back in in-ring action. Princeton Willard, he is someone who has stuck his head into the Wham before. He's getting significant work as a goof, and he's got a really good personality type, so if he had a little bit more experience, he might have ended up being a part of the Wham, so we're creating opportunities, baby. There's still only a popularity of 11 in the Mid-Atlantic, though. And we're getting ready to change the gimmick for Bronson Fraley. We're just giving him Wham OG gimmick. It certainly fits regardless of what happens with his character specifically until we need to change it again. So we're going with the realistic this time. It was Swagger before. He's good at playing both, so we'll change up the pros and cons a little bit with him. Now hopefully that works. We do have a gimmick change ready for it, and we are very, very hopeful that it goes over well. And we don't normally do this, but I've ran some tests in some off-camera saves, not necessarily with the Effganic mod, but we're going to try to change a big problem. We're going to try to call out Neil Allman for his bad attitude, and I don't know if it's going to work. It might make him really angry. He's got a mercenary personality type, which will never be good. Regardless of how happy he is, he will always be contributing negatively, and he's a mainstay in the Wham. I don't know why it's showing that he's got a Wellington Dynasty backdrop right now. He's very much... Okay, everyone's got a Wellington Dynasty backdrop right now for some reason, but we're gonna make a risky play here, and I hope it pays off. That's crazy. Let's go. Oh my gosh. Your call out of Neil Allman had the desired result, and he is likely to improve his behavior going forward. That's crazy. I'm wondering what it's gonna end up going to. Most times I see professional or just neutral, but that's crazy. I'm so amazed it worked on the first time. It never works on the first time. I had a save where I just did it every single show, and it worked like twice out of like 6 or 7 attempts. But that's huge. That is huge for the backstage morale. I'm so hyped up about that. And we are ready to go with another edition of the Fortnite Fisticuffs. Triple threat to get our pre-show matches going. This is not a part of the Women's Wham pre here. As stated, pre-show matches not allowed. However, we do see Mariana Calvo pick up a victory over Rhea Quarry and Sloane Knutson. Sloane Knutson is getting a little bit better as she's peeking into the 20s. Rhea Quarry with a 23, but Mariana Calvo, the standout here with the 32, the victory, and a match rating of 21. Another pre-show match, tag team action as the Dark Carnival Blue Mage Craig Bean in action against Kamari Flanders and Jeremy Funderburk. The funnest team in the Wham, without question. And not a ton to say about this one, just some dominance from the Dark Carnival here. Blue Mage Craig Bean picking up the victory over some junior heavyweights, but we do get a match rating of 43, not bad. Our show gets going with a phenomenal as the Oklahoma Openweight Championship division seeks some parity, and we've got 4 guys competing for a chance to potentially challenge Chuck Wellington. Matu Scarborough would be the one to not only impress, but come out on top. Matu Scarborough would be the one to come out on top with an impressive in-ring performance of 60, however not the best in the match, with Joe Cartwright getting a 61, Woodrow Gunter with a 57, and Raw Boy not bad with a 45, so good work all around here as we got a cross-division match, 2 junior heavyweights, 2 heavyweights, but Matu Scarborough is the one to come out on top. Now our next match, we just see Black Bull dominating Joe Bryant in a one-on-one match. Not a great performance from Joe Bryant, 25, we kind of know what to expect from him, but Black Bull not bad here with a 49 as he continues his reign of destruction. And after the match, we would see Gary G. Immick grabbing a microphone, and he would just make a quick announcement that nobody in the Wham is safe from the vengeance of Black Bull. And this was just a little bit of a test to see how Gary how Gary G. Emick will do in angles and everything. We still got to raise his popularity, but we know once his popularity is there, his performance stats are exceptional. And that's why we brought him in. And we're going to see that increase, I think. But this segment gets a rating of 52. Now, the Women's Wham Prix does continue here in this match as another triple threat match. Kuni Hashiguchi, Sheila Velasco, and Talia Rayleigh. Kuni Hashiguchi, once again, just looking good, looking strong, making the case that she's going to run away with this Women's Wham Prix as she got an in-ring performance of 51 as well as a victory. Sheila Velasco with an in-ring performance of 23, Talia Rayleigh with an in-ring performance of 30, and we get a match rating of 41, not bad here. And no injuries either, that's even better. The ladies would continue to step up their game with an even better triple threat match in the next match. Veronica Letter would be the one to come out on top here, picking up the victory with an in-ring performance of 53, Ivy Baldridge got a 33, and Super Rabbit got a 22. We're still getting introduced to Super Rabbit here. She's got some decent stats, some encouraging stats for sure, but she does not have a lot of experience and even less popularity. So we're not expecting big numbers from her right away. Ivy Baldridge, someday she will not be off of her game and we'll see what she can really do because she's got some really good stats, really strong brawling and technical ability, but really, really bad consistency rating, so it always hurts her. But we get a match rating of 44 here. Now in our next match, some tag team action between the junior heavyweights as Archie Filer, presumed number one contender, and Hermenegildo Ramirez, current junior heavyweight champion, are teaming up again to face off against RT Lincoln and Super Monkey. Now, I think the last time we had Ramirez and Filer on a team, Filer suffered a very serious injury, so I'm glad that wasn't the case here. But we do see some really strong performances all around. Hermenegildo Ramirez and Filer both at 65s, and Super Monkey and RT Lincoln both at 57s. So that gives us a match rating of 64, really strong work, and Archie Filer would be the one to secure the victory after he submitted RT Lincoln. So more tension, more game recognizes game between Archie Filer and Hermenegildo Ramirez. Great match, but not the last match. We would have a strong performance, although it wasn't as good as the match before it, but Neil Allman would put his heavyweight championship on the line against Friedrich Herzog's protege. Now there's no Friedrich Herzog around anymore, so this is just kind of a middle finger to him from Neil Allman, as he agreed to give Friedrich Herzog a heavyweight championship match, backed out on that, says he didn't deserve it, and now here he is posing a challenge to the protege, the very new face here in the WAM, Moses Lilia. However, Moses Lilia is going to be a good competitor as well. He's able to do a pretty good job when going up against the WAM heavyweight champion, two big dudes just going mano a mano. Neil Allman takes care of business in just over 10 minutes, and this is the fourth successful defense of the WAM Heavyweight Championship as these boys get a match rating of 60. Neil Allman 63, Moses Lilia 41. And Bronson Fraley, this will give us the opportunity to change his gimmick now. We've got that WAM OG set to be his new gimmick. We do have a safe bet gimmick idea. It was a success. And that would make his overall gimmick perception great, which is an excellent thing to see. Big turnaround from the stale adequate that it was beforehand, and that's also going to give him a little bump to his morale. Not that he needs it, but it's something beneficial regardless. Now to end the night, Neil Allman and Bronson Fraley begin their arrogant parade following a successful title defense from Allman. However, the celebration did not last long as they were interrupted by the appearance of Sebastian Morales, Rahan Marlowe, and Turner Spittler. Rahan Marlowe was carrying a microphone and told Neil Allman to enjoy that championship while he can, because at the next amazing grappling spectacle, he will be defending that title against all three men at the curtain now. This left Neil Allman shook, wiping off the smirk that was on his face. Big resolution, in a way, as Rahan Marlowe, Sebastian Morales, and Turner Spittler all vying for the chance to compete for the title. They're all getting that title shot. It's going to be a four-way match for the heavyweight championship at the next event. And the confident, arrogant Neil Allman very quickly turned angry, defensive, and a little insecure. Huge challenge coming for that man. Can he overcome it? We're going to have to wait and see. But we get a segment rating of 62 to end things off. Overall, we get a show rating of 59, very strong. The only poor match here was Black Bull's domination of Joe Bryant. Probably could have put anybody else in there, it would have got over a 40, but it is what it is. Thanks to our broadcasting in Mexico, we're now seeing popularity increases in 6 regions. You'll love to see it. And after the show, we praise Ivy Baldridge, Super Monkey, and Jeremy Funderburg. $14,750 of profit, and some very tangible popularity increases. Mid-South up to 49, Midwest up to 27, Southeast up to 22, and then growth in the Southwest, Noreste, and Noroccidente region. After the show, we received the notification that Gary G. Emick has relocated to the Mid-South, moving over from Canada. Thank you, sir. Moses Lilia getting some work with TWA. And we're also going to set up a gimmick change for our man Neil Allman. His gimmick was only at the adequate rating, so we're going to give him another legitimate gimmick, the Wham Loyalist. We've got a gimmick idea to help bolster the success rate of it, and we'll see that take effect at the next show. And the last thing we're going to check out before we get into the next event is our locker room morale. We are officially at good rating. My gosh, we have come so far. Neil Allman, we haven't seen a total attitude change from him yet. It's still mercenary personality type, but I'm confident that it's going to change. It makes me want to try it again, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. But just check out this overview of our morale. Look how many people who are actually happy here in the Wham. It's amazing. Opposed to the amount of people that are not happy here in the Wham. Looks like just 8 people have some kind of negative morale state, and most of them are non-issues. We still want to take care of them though. We don't want people unhappy here at the Wham. But my gosh, what a turnaround. Can you believe it? And we've got some good news. Berbidia Abeta is now back and ready to compete. Sloan Knudson's contract is coming to an end, as well as Joe Bryant. Now, unfortunately for these two, we are not going to renew their contracts. Joe Bryant was a big part of repairing our morale, but I think we've got enough supporting cast to prevent that. We're in a good spot. Sloan Knudson, she was a new addition to the Wham's women's division, but I'm not convinced that she's ever going to turn out to be anything significant. And I think we're going to be able to find better women available. And a lot of the new faces have already kind of outshined her, so we're not really concerned about re-signing either of them. We're just going to delete these notices. And during our booking meeting, we actually had 4 good creative ideas come through, so we're going to use some of them on our irritated talents. The first being Rocco Lockwood. It's a near certainty, and it was a success. He's still irritated, but that does move him into war momentum. Not really what I'm hoping for, though. Let's try another one. This one was another success. Still irritated. That's a shame. I was hoping we'd see a tangible increase from him, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Let's go ahead and try Wayne Blankenship. Let's give this man a creative idea. This one's just a safe bet, but it is a success, and that does move him up into normal morale. That's what we were hoping for. The next one, the last one that we're going to use, is going to be on Chuck Wellington, who is annoyed, so this certainly probably isn't going to help him a ton. It was a success. Look at that. It went from annoyed to pleased. Big change there. So we're able to alleviate 2 negative morale states, and hopefully Rocco Lockwood is close to improving his morale as well. But with that all out of the way now, let's get into the Amazing Grappling Spectacle, the 90th edition of the Amazing Grappling Spectacle. Big stuff. In front of 1,802 people here in the homeland of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Our first pre-show of the match is just a large conglomerate of guys who didn't have anything to do, and I wanted them on the card. I wanted them involved in some way. RT Lincoln, Woodrow Gunter, Super Monkey, and Jeremy Funderburk picking up a victory over Jackson Barden, Kamari Flanders, Brian Hatcher, and August Washburn. Altogether, not a bad match. 44 rating, despite not the best performers taking part. Jeremy Funderburk with a 35 might be the best we've seen from him so far. Super Monkey 57, Woodrow Gunter 51, RT Lincoln 58. That's a pretty solid team. August Washburn 29, Brian Hatcher 41, Kamari Flanders 30, and Jackson Barden 27. They could use some work, but Brian Hatcher's looking pretty good for himself. Our next pre-show match has got Wayne Blankenship in action because he was getting a little upset that he was being left off the shows. He takes the loss against Raul or Boyd in a one-on-one contest. Now, before we get into the actual show, let's take a look at the current standings of the women's Wham pre right now. As you can see, we've got Kuni Hashiguchi on top with 2 wins as well as 107 points. Now, as a reminder, you need 5 victories and 200 points to qualify for that women's championship match. 5 wins may have been a little ambitious for myself to establish, but it's too late to change it now. I already said it. and we're gonna just roll with the punches and adjust the format for future iterations as needed. But anyway, we've got Kuni Hashiguchi on top. Ivy Baldridge actually in that number 2 spot thanks to her victory and her 61 points. Veronica Lutter also has a victory, but she's only got 53 points. She's been working with TWA, she's not available for every show, so that might hurt her in the long run. After that, we've got Talia Rayleigh, who's been getting involved. She's got 57 points, but no victories. Berbidia Abeta, 39 points. Mariana Calvo, 28. And Sheila Velasco rounds out the top 7 with 23 points, but none of those last 4 ladies have any victories. So tonight's going to be big in affecting those standings, and let's get right into it. We've got a triple threat match between Talia Rayleigh, Super Rabbit, and Rhea Quarry. 3 ladies who have not gotten any victories in this tournament format so far, but we see Talia Rayleigh picking up her first victory off of the back of an in-ring performance of 30. Super Rabbit had a 25, as did Rhea Quarry. So nothing to blow the roof off by any means, but we are seeing a little bit more establishment. It's not just Kuni Hashiguchi, Veronica Lutter, and Berbidia Abeta basically. So we've got another lady picking up a victory, and that's Talia Rayleigh. Now moving into our next match of the night, we've got Moses Lilia taking on Fritz Hattendorf, former member of the Wham, back for one night. Fritz Hattendorf is here to take a loss to Moses Lilia. This is a battle of 2 former Friedrich Herzog proteges, and Moses Lilia is able to take care of business here, putting Fritz Hattendorf down. And Hattendorf does get an in-ring performance of 35, not bad work, but Moses Lilia proving that he is probably the better choice. If Friedrich Herzog was still around, we probably should have found Moses Lilia way back when. But anyway, this shows us that Moses Lilia is probably the better performer than Fritz Hattendorf, and he basically took his spot on the roster, and I think it was a good move to do so. He gets an in-ring performance of 42, and we get a match rating of 38. Things are starting to ramp up here. We get a better match, and we've got a triple threat for the Women's Wham Prix. Veronica Lutter, Berbidia Abeta, and Mariana Calvo. In a big twist, Veronica Lutter dominated the match in terms of in-ring performance, but Berbidia Abeta coming away with a victory as she makes a big return off of a dislocated shoulder. She was gone for a whole 19 days, so the crowd has been itching to see her once again. And she comes out, delivers a good in-ring performance, and she picks up a victory with Veronica Lutter in the match. So quite the upset there for Berbidia Abeta. Now our next match, the final women's match of the night, the final bit of our Women's Wham Prix here at the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 90. And remember, there's a whole extra month at least to go with the Women's Wham Prix. However, we would see a one-on-one match between Kuni Hashiguchi and Ivy Baldridge. And Kuni Hashiguchi continues to impress as she picks up another victory and another high point count for this Wham Prix. Ivy Baldridge taking the loss and only gets an in-ring performance of 29. That's not going to help her too much with the points. However, we do see a match rating of 48. Good competition between the ladies. Kuni Hashiguchi just carrying the match and making it look really good. Now in the next match, we've got the Oklahoma Openweight Championship on the line as Chuck Wellington defends his title against Matus Scarborough. And Matus Scarborough is a star in the making, future champion. However, his first singles championship is going to have to wait. More shenanigans arise from the Wellington brothers as Chuck Wellington, thanks to the interference from Duke Wellington, is able to walk out of here as Oklahoma Openweight Champion. Now, this isn't this interference in the sense that Duke comes in, strikes Matus, and Chuck Wellington capitalizes. No, this is an intentional disqualification from the Wellington boys. However, we just had to book it with certain language in ways that didn't tank the entire rating, so we still got a decent match out of it. So disregard the pinfall ending, as the Honorable Kenny Lyles would have to throw out this match, disqualifying Chuck Wellington, but allowing him to retain the championship. So, in air quotes, a successful championship defense. Matus Scarborough, not a happy boy about this one. He was livid, extremely angry, and becomes a little unhinged, actually. Kind of throws a bit of a fit. But that changes nothing. Chuck Wellington is still the openweight champion. In-ring performance of 36 for Chuck and 61 for Matus Scarborough. Match rating of 48. Big tag team matchup next as we've got the Dark Carnival taking on Black Bull and Maxwell Ham. Craig Bean, let's get into the numbers first of all. Match rating of 54, great work here. Craig Bean with a 49, Blue Mage with a 52, Maxwell with a 54, and Black Bull at a 47. Unfortunate that Black Bull is the lowest rated competitor in the match because he really is the main focus of this match, in fact. And Black Bull and Maxwell Ham just getting a little bit of revenge on the Dark Carnival. We know that Black Bull ended up saving Maxwell Ham and the Great Matsuo from the Dark Carnival. Maxwell Ham and Matsuo then returned the favor, and now we've got this tag team match. Black Bull and Maxwell Ham, they are able to coexist, and they defeat Blue Mage and Craig Bean. Although following their victory, Black Bull is standing still in the ring. Maxwell Ham looks to celebrate with Bull, but Black Bull returns the camaraderie with aggression, beating down Maxwell Ham. Black Bull was explosive in his attack, as well as taking down the Great Matsuo when Gary G. Emick threw him in the ring at Black Bull's feet. The crowd was in shock, but the message had been sent. Black Bull trusts no one. You really thought I was going to put Black Bull in another team situation right after he just got screwed over for like the third time? No sir, no how, no way. Maxwell Ham's a good guy, but Black Bull doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust anybody. Maxwell Ham is still a human, so therefore he's not on the good side of Black Bull. Jury's still out on Gary G. Emick if he's human or not. But just an exclamation point in the character development of Black Bull, kind of taking on a bit of a Kane aura. I kind of think that's the comparison that continues to pop up in my head. So think of it a little bit as that way. He's been scarred, he's been traumatized, he's been stabbed in the back, and now he's just taking it out on everybody. Big Junior Heavyweight Championship match. Hermenegildo Ramirez, Archie Filer put on a banger. Match rating is 64, and we would see the Junior Heavyweight Champion retain his title. Hermenegildo Ramirez, he had to do it in some less than definitive ways, as there was a flash pinfall that allowed him to keep Archie Filer down for the 1-2-3. But it was a highly competitive match. These two worked great with each other. As you can see, Hermenegildo Ramirez with an in-ring performance of 72, Archie Filer right up there with him with a 69. Made for a phenomenal match, although it did suffer from a lack of psychology. It was 15 minutes long, so that might be just a little long for these boys. But we get a match rating of 64 and a successful championship defense from Hermenegildo Ramirez. And given the way that this match came to an end, this is not going to be the last time that these two are dealing with one another. And our main event of the night, a four-way match for the heavyweight championship. Neil Allman with his back against the wall, very low odds to come out of here on top. However, he does it. He retains the WHAM Heavyweight Championship successfully. Of course, there was plenty of shenanigans from Bronson Fraley ringside. However, Neil Allman just does the damn thing. He is a less than honorable competitor at this point, but he is still an elite competitor. Excellent performances all around. The lowest rating that we saw was a 57, which is not bad, but other than that, 3 out of the 4 guys got 60 pluses. Rohan Marlowe 63, Turner Spittler 57, Sebastian Morales 62, and Neil Allman with a 65. Great way to end the night. Best match in WHAM history, and I'm not surprised about it. And that's not all. We even got Neil Allman's gimmick change to go through. The gimmick idea was a success, and his gimmick got a rating of great. Really strong show, 64 overall rating, nearly the best in WHAM history, but I think our best is a 65. Our opening matches probably didn't help us with our rating. I'm honestly surprised that triple threat with Talia Rayleigh, Super Rabbit, and Rhea Quarry didn't get marked down for everyone being unimportant, but I guess there was enough momentum between the three of them to alleviate that. But really strong at the top of the card. We saw a good match with Black Bull, Maxwell Ham, and the Dark Carnival. The ladies are looking good. They are planting their flag here in the WHAM, and we've got some big things on the horizon. And we praised Chuck Wellington, Jackson Barden, and Burbidia Abeta after the show. Profiting $17,000 on this show, our post-show finances puts us at $76,000, nearly $100,000. Big turnaround from needing the financial bailout just a few years ago. Tangible increases in Noreste, Noroccidente, and the Southwest regions. However, not any kind of change in the Mid-South. We must have hit our popularity cap for the month. And before we sign off for this episode, let's take a look at where the standings are at in the Women's WHAM Prix following the amazing grappling spectacle. In that number 1 slot, you obviously see Kunihashi Gucci didn't go anywhere except closer to her goal of 200 points and 5 victories. She is now a perfect 3-0, and she's got 164 points. So basically, if she wins 2 more matches, she's in there. In the number 2 slot, we've got Veronica Letter with 1 victory and 103 points. Ivy Baldridge with a victory as well, 90 points. Talia Rayleigh, 1 victory, 87 points. And Berbidia Abeta, 1 victory, 78 points. Other than that, we've got Mariana Calvo and Super Rabbit rounding out the top 7, with 57 points for Calvo and 47 points for Rabbit, but 0 victories, so they are a ways away. However, that's going to do it for us here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you a ton, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.